Hello, I am going to talk about a very underrated movie, uh, and it's by Steven Spielberg. It's called Hook, as you know by the title of my video down here. Um, Hook, I'm a big Spielberg fan, Spielberg, has pretty much made most of my favorite movies. Like, my second favorite movie of all time is E.T., um, and my first favorite movie of all time is Back to the Future. I know he didn't direct it, but he produced it, so he had a lot to do with that movie. But I will make a video on E.T., but I would like to talk about a movie called Hook. Now, Hook is a movie made in 1991, and I think it's one of the most underrated movies of all time. It doesn't have that big of a score on Rotten Tomatoes. I guess it's kind of gained a cult following now due to a couple things, Uh, a lot of people, not really my age, but like kids who grew up in the 80s and early 90s, saw this movie, so they're kind of nostalgic to it. So the nostalgia has kind of made it more popular again. Also, with the success of Dante Bosco's career. Now, he's not like, like Al Pacino, Robert De Niro big, but he's due to his success on Avatar and the success of his internet channel on YouTube, he and people recognizing Dante Basco more, I think kind of they look back on like, oh, that's Rufio, and so I think he kind of makes it more of a cult following too. But on the general, I think critics and audience, those who are not nostalgic to it, and I'm pretty nostalgic to it, but that's not one of the reasons why I like it. It's kind of, people don't really like it that much. They think it's kind of too whimsical, it's too cartoonish, and it's got like a 35 on Rotten Tomatoes. Don't quote me on that, I don't know for sure, but I know it's really low. It's actually considered one of Spielberg's weakest movies. Now, I'm not gonna say that Spielberg has done not done. I don't think he's done a bad movie, but he has done shorter end movies like 1942. And even movies like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I'm not really a big fan of myself. I just don't really like the message of it's okay that he left his family to join the aliens. I think that's kind of, and even Spielberg himself is kind of mundane on that movie. I don't know, but Hook, I love this movie. It's great. It's a movie that leaves you with a good feeling at the end. It really does. I mean, you just feel like a happier person after you watch it. And it's just got, such a great message. Now, why this movie is so positive, leaves you with a positive feeling, is you get a great story arc. Uh, and it's got a great message about fathers and about them don't not messing their kids because one day they could be all grown up and don't want to pay attention to. Well, that was kind of like a spill. That was kind of that like kind of was kind of like a Spielberg effect because he kind of likes like flashing lights in camera lenses, which he obviously, strange enough, he doesn't do it with Hook, but he does do it a lot with like Jurassic Park and a lot of his more recent movies. But anyway, back to Hook. Hook is it kind of was the beginning of Spielberg's beginning of showing fathers in a positive light. Now, a lot of earlier Spielberg movies kind of, maybe the exception of Jaws, but a lot of his earlier movies kind of portrayed the father in a very nasty light. Reason being is, like for example, Close Encounters, he leaves his family to join the alien. Well, the family left him, but he doesn't go back afterwards. He goes to the aliens, or E.T. the dad's with his mistress in Mexico. All these kind of negative looks on fathers and dads and all that with it did not begin with Hook, but it really shows with Hook. The movie it really began with was with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Now the reason being is Spielberg, when he was young, his parents were divorced, and he always thought for many years it was the dad's fault, but really it was actually the mother's fault. So after he found that out, he started portraying fathers more in positive light, and Plus, he became a father, so that's what made him start making movies of dads in a positive light, and sons or daughters or kids' relationship with their fathers, uh, and good messages about that. Now, I think the first movie to do that was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade with Indy and his father, which is again one of my top favorite movies. But with Hook, it really shows, and I think this couldn't be done without the performance of Robin Williams. Now, Robin Williams, you could tell he really gets this character. You really feel it in his performance. It has that impact emotion. You believe it. That he wants to be there for his kids, but he just, at the end he realizes what he has to do. He needs to pay attention more to them, and not get so mad at them. And well, he portrays it so well. Robin Williams in this movie, God, I miss that actor. May he rest in peace, because this movie just made me miss him a lot. Watching his performance in this movie made me get teary-eyed. It really did. It made me miss how what an impact he left on movies. And now with Hook, it definitely shows that he had such a brightness to him. He had such a way to make put when he smiles, you smile. You just can't help it. He's got like a contagious laugh to him, and God is just he's just so likable in this movie as Peter Pan. And in the beginning, he might be a little unlikable, but his story arc, how his story arc transitions from him being this grumpy, overweight, uh, parent who's a workaholic to Peter Pan and like the world's funnest dad, the world's funnest person. And it's just one of the best story arcs, I think, in movie history. If I asked somebody, I'm not saying it's the only one, but one of them, you could tell somebody if they're like, I want a story arc, I want to see good story arc, tell them to watch Hook. And Peter Pan, Robin Williams' character, his arc in the movie is a great example of how a character arc should be. At the end, he changes for the better for you to like him and to root for him. So great. Oh man, and there's another actor in this movie that I really miss, is Bob Hoskins. Oh God, he again, two great actors in this movie that are gone, and I hope they rest in peace. Bob Hoskins, again, a great actor. I loved him. Obviously he's known for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but him as Smee in this movie, again, when you see these, when he smiles, you smile, and like he kind of has like a Phil Collins vibe to him, which Phil Collins is in this movie. And it's so cool to see him as Smee, because he's the perfect person for Smee. Oops, 1 minute. Got like pop-ups here. He really is the perfect actor to play Smee. And he portrays it in kind of like an Australian voice, and you could tell he's a person that cares for Hook, but he kind of has a heart of gold with him. Now again, Dustin Hoffman in this movie, he's not the best. He's not the best part of this movie. Robin Williams just brings, and all the energy comes from Robin Williams. He's just a great actor, but he's not terrible in this movie. He does really good. He does really good as Captain Hook. He's pretty much the person I think of when I think of Captain Hook. This movie, and I'll get to that later, but Captain Hook, like when I think of Captain Hook, I don't think of the Disney cartoon. I think of, Dustin Hoffman as Captain Hook. Though he's not the best part of the movie, I think he owned that role. He kind of has, this nasty growl to him that he just enjoys being nasty. He's kind of like the Joker. And it's just so fun to watch, and you can tell Dustin Hoffman's having a ball playing him. He's just so nasty with the kids, and he just is having a ball out of. Oop, I should keep my head there. But this movie also has Julia Roberts, which she's not bad in this movie. She plays Tinkerbell. But there's another thing about this movie. It's my favorite Peter Pan movie. When I think of Peter Pan, in my opinion, the most memorable, the definitive, Neverland or Peter Pan or anything, the definitive look of Neverland, the definitive look of the Lost Boys, and even Robin Williams as Peter Pan, is this movie. I think this is the best one in my opinion, and it's just so underrated. I think this movie really has a lot of imagination and heart to it. Um, it's got a positive feeling to it, and I just love the creative design. They're kind of like '90s punk kid, like late '80s, early '90s punk kids, the Lost Boys, but it's just the most memorable. I mean, which version of Lost Boys are you gonna remember more? Uh, the Foxier one from, I don't even remember his name, from the Disney one. And I'm sorry, the Disney one is really good too. But I'm just saying, which Lost Boys are you gonna remember? The ones with the rabbits, who wear the the animal clothing, or like Rufio and his gang. I mean, that's like the definitive version of Lost Boy. And I'm on it, Dante Bosco. Dante Bosco is just so awesome, and this is the movie that got him acting. I'm sure he was probably in a couple stuff before this, but this is what really brought him to become more professional. And I think he probably wouldn't have got Avatar or American Dragon without, or even as successful as he is on like YouTube and stuff, without this movie. And it shows. I mean, there's moments where when you hear his voice, if you love Avatar: The Last Airbender like me, fan of the show, and you hear his voice, it is a little distracting because he does sound like Zuko sometimes, but it's still great to see him. He is also the Finn Foster. Another great thing about this movie, I just have praises for this movie. And I'll get on to some negative things later. But I have a lot of praises for this movie, and that is John Williams' score. Oh my God, I love John Williams' score in this movie. It might be one of my, aside from the theme in Last Crusade and the Binary Sunset and Star Wars, this might be like my third favorite Williams score. The da 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 da. It's great. I love it. You know, again, it leaves you with a warm feeling. That's how I kind of describe this movie. It just leaves you with a warm, positive feeling. It makes you want to, hug your parents. It makes you want to be a kid again. It shows you, you never want to lose your innocence, but you don't want to lack any, you don't want to lose the great things of adulthood either, like your kids. That's what it is. You want to stay a kid, but you don't want to lose the things that adults have, such as their children. It shows the great things of being, it shows the great things about being a kid and an adult, and also kind of the bad things too, like being unresponsible or too responsible, but it's kind of, but again, it shows the great side too of being adults and kids. And, this movie just brings a tear to my eye, and it's just such a nostalgia. Again, it's a nostalgic movie, but it's not just that why I like it. I just have praise for it. Brings a tear to my eye, and I miss Robin Williams. May you rest in peace. This is my favorite. That's probably my favorite Robin Williams movie, but I think my favorite Robin Williams part is the genie in Aladdin. But this movie, when you just watch him on screen, oh my God, it's just, I miss that guy. He was so great. He just, he made you. He was just brought such a likability to characters, and he was funny, and man, I miss him. May he rest in peace. But yeah, this movie, I don't know why I think a lot of the kids who, and even some of my generation too, but especially like the generation before me, ones who grew up in the '80s and '90s, they kind of have a soft spot for this movie because they grew up with it. So they're the kind of ones that kind of keep this movie alive, keep the praise going and keep it popular. And I love it too. I think it's one of the most underrated movies of all time. I guess it's one of those things where a movie where you like, but it's naturally down upon. And I don't get why this is considered one of the weakest Spielberg movies. This does not deserve a 35 on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever it is. There's just so many other movies that are just, I think, are so overrated, and this movie is just so underrated. This might be the most underrated movie of all time. It really is. I mean, there are a couple, I think, underrated movies, that get, this bad appraisal that I think are good, like Rocky Five or Hercules, movies that do have some type of following, but are naturally frowned upon by critics. And I think this is a movie that really shows that. Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just like people were used to how Spielberg's like Raiders or E.T. things he done for that, but Spielberg, he branches out in other elements, and I think this is a great movie. I like this better than I don't want to say I like it better than Jurassic Park but I might like it better than even a lot of his movies. I think get a lot of praise. Like I like it better than uh, than Lincoln. I thought Lincoln was kind of boring. I like it a lot better than again Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I'm not saying those movies are bad, but I think this is way better than a lot of those. And I'm not saying it's the best Spielberg movie, but I think it's a great still. I think it's still in the top 10, at least top 5. This is a great movie. It's lazy. It's got a good message, great character art, likable characters, likable villains, likable heroes, great score, great set design. Even though you could tell this is obviously sets, it's just got such a great design to it. It's got such a tactility to it. I prefer sets like that where you can tell it's sets, but it's actually there. Than also and has like a personality and character to it, like the Lost Boys set or the Pirate set. Then some of the things that might look more more like look more like to real life, but are all CGI and have like no charm and no tactile, no character to it. Like some of the things you see. Like, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan. I mean, I like the Star Wars prequels. Don't kill me, but I think again those sets don't have any personality, and it's not just the Star Wars prequels. There's other movies like like Transformers or some of this lazy, stupid Michael Bay movies. Which I did watch The Rock today, not to get off thing, and The Rock is Michael Bay's only good movie. But back to Hook, it's just got such a tactile to it, to the sets, and this movie I love. This movie makes me a fan of Peter Pan. It's got my favorite look of Neverland. This is the Neverland that I'm a fan of. This is if of all the versions of Neverland out there, this is the Neverland I want to go to. This is never this in my opinion, it's the definitive Neverland, the definitive Peter Pan. Now, I give this movie a 10 out of 10. If there's anything bad about it, I would say that he has a wife, and it just shows him kissing like other like mermaids and Tinkerbell. I don't know if I'm not sure that's a good message. That's the only complaint about it. But other than that, I think it's really good. Um, and also I think some parts of the movie. I think the movie is a little tad too long. But other than that, I think it's really good. I'd rather it be too long than just have no personality to it and just be under 2 hours. But this movie is so good. I definitely recommend it. I give it an A plus, an A minus. It's one of my favorite movies actually. I just have nothing to praise for it. I think it's the most underrated, not just the most underrated Spielberg movie, not just the most underrated Peter Pan movie, not just the most underrated Robin Williams movie, or Dustin Hoffman movie, or Bob Hoskins movie, or John Williams movie. I think this is the most underrated, one of the most underrated movies of all time. It really is, if not the most underrated movie of all time. So, Hook, if you haven't seen it, go see it, and don't listen to Rotten Tomatoes. Go in with your own opinion. If you love Spielberg, you'll love this movie. I love it. Thumbs up. See you for my next review. Take care. Like, subscribe, comment. God bless. See you next time.